Bandana.
Okay.
Got me. Alright, cool. Very good. Yeah, he just got me now. Yeah?
Are we good? Can we go?
Yeah. Are you gonna introduce me or should I just go?
Shall I just let's just see if the mic works.
Yeah, okay. Go for it. Yeah.
Then you need to write
Quiet.
She's going to be holding the space for us. So for being here.
Cool. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much, Nick. So my name is Bothma and I'm going to be, as Nick said, holding the space. And I'm Catholic, so my mom would be very proud if I started this off with a prayer. It's very short. I'll say it in my language first and I'll translate. Is that okay? Awesome. Okay. Le tlotlo le behuntate le humora le humoya o halelang. Jwalo le halekal teng tsimuluhong jwalo le ka mehle sa feeling, which translates to glory be to the Father and to the Son and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, it's now, never shall be, world without end. Amen. Awesome. So when the Bothma family asked me to hold the space, Nick made it quite clear that this is a celebration of a beautiful life. So we are gathered here today to really celebrate our beloved friend, our fellow rower, granddad, dad, hubby, and we are very blessed to have known Johnny. So yeah, if you want to cry, of course you can. There's some tissue over here. That's for that. And then I just wanted to just share when I first met Johnny. So I live in Hout Bay and I just moved to Cape Town, and I used to row fine boats, and he appeared down the stairs at a spa, and he was wearing this green massive top that was written South African Championships 2000. And I remember stopping him. That's how I met him. I'm like, you, stay there. And I ran to the car and got my phone, and I sort of exchanged numbers with Johnny. And that's how I got reconnected to this club, or connected to this club, and joined the Cape Coast Rowing Club. So your dad was instrumental of that connection. So super proud and super glad that I was there at that time. And then I started rowing with the club, and then Johnny would give me lifts to the club, and then he would strike up these conversations with me on the way back, and he'd say, you know, Tato, this my heart pacer, the battery is going to expire in 4.5 years. I was like, jeez. This guy's planning ahead. He was just like this light guy, beautiful guy, really proud of his kids, and he would tell me these beautiful stories about one of the kids is a pilot. Yeah, he's really proud of you. Nick, not so much. And I got a story to qualify that. All right, so the Bothma family came to one of my shows at the beginning of January. Actually, it was the 6th of January. Wow. Yeah, in Hout Bay. And Johnny is so I'm a comedian, and Johnny is actually in my debut special. And the story goes, so we were preparing for the Freedom Paddle, which is a race that happens in April every year. It's a paddle ski or surf skiing race. But our Commodore Estelle has wrangled us in there, so we take part of this race every year. And the previous year, Johnny and Nick had been in a double together. So Estelle phoned up Johnny to say, hey dude, I'm arranging crews for last year. Do you want to go with Nick again? And he was like, oh, Estelle, I'm a little bit worried about Nick. Nick is not that fit. And this is an 86-year-old. So Nick, you gotta get fit, man. Yeah, so that was Johnny, just like making fun of everything and just being so light. And the last time I actually saw him, we were rowing with the maiden crew, closing cruise, and it was gusting. And I was looking at this man, I'm like, he's 86! And he's out in this water, and just a beautiful, beautiful dude that loved water and loved people. And I'm really, really honored to have known him and to have shared the special times with him. So without further ado, I'm going to call up Anna Marie and Estelle to just give a speech or a talk just from our club, CCRC. Over to you. Thank you. I think I should give you this. Can I give you this?
Can you hear me? Yes. Thank you. So, on behalf of Cape Coastal Rowing Club, I'm honoured to pay tribute to Johnny. Johnny was a true legend, our friend, a proud member of Cape Coastal. In 2012, George Kerner pitched the first.
So can I just?
Oh, fancy.
Where am I put it? No, can you hold this?
Yeah, baby.
Okay.
Now content pages as
She'll help you. Sorry.
We're going to take turns.
Yeah, I'll be.
I knew I had to wear the duck. See? That's it. The duck is very functional, as I'll explain later. So Geordie bought the first rowing boat, the coastal rowing boat from St. Francis, and it was called Brisky. And him and Johnny tested it out together, rowing to Fishhook. They were spotted by another legend, Derek Reed. And this side galvanized Derek, who arranged for the delivery of two Yolets that were gathering dust at Western Cape rowing. Derek, unstoppable as we know he is, he then enticed Dave Mars and Julie Geddes to join, and from here Cape Coastal was born. Johnny's commitment to Cape Coastal was memorable. He was always, every morning, the first one on the slip. He was the first to offer to coach the Law Hill students. He was the first to put up his hand when it came to anything, whether it's boat maintenance, a long row, a challenge, an adventure, tours. He was always booked for sport. I've got to turn the page now, Anna Marie, I've got this thing.
Sorry.
That's it, it's okay. Johnny had many passions in life, but chief among them, as I think we all know, was the ocean, of rowing and of sailing. He spent countless weekends sailing his beautiful yacht, Ariette, with friends and family, and over 75 years of rowing, which is quite significant. Now, I'll put this paragraph in, I've got to go back. Okay. One of Johnny's cherished experiences, and Tato touched upon this, was the Freedom Paddle, which is a very tough 7K from Orange Bay around Robben Island, yes, it's sometimes longer, and back. And in 2021, Johnny and Nick did it together. Now I'm turning pages. In a double, nogals. And as Tato said, anyone who thought it was Nick who got the 85-year-old around the island might be mistaken. Nick will tell you it was the other way around. Johnny never ever complained on a boat. A story actually told by our dear friend Mandy was one day they were rowing in a quad, and Johnny was in his usual bow position. And towards the end of the row, people were getting tired, but not Johnny. And the number two, who's the person in front of Johnny, was a slightly younger gentleman. He was getting really tired, and he started shouting, "Take her down, take her down," shouting at the stroke. And Johnny from the back was shouting, "Take it up, take it up." And the best thing is they actually didn't know what one another was saying. They couldn't hear one another. They were both hearing impaired. But as always, Johnny just kept on rowing. Johnny was not only a brilliant oarsman, he was also a legendary cox. Later on, he'd cox more, and often with a naughty grin on his face and a twinkle in his eye, and you knew you were in for it when Johnny was coxing. He would, if you were racing, he would take shortcuts, he would cut corners, he would cut the other boat off proudly. And you sometimes needed that to win. You know, all is fair when it comes to racing. He was extremely competitive in his own very understated way. And for Johnny, rowing was about the solace he found on the water, as well as the physical fitness and the discipline demanded. Johnny rowed his single in Hout Bay almost every weekday when they still lived out at Hout Bay, unfazed by the Atlantic swells and currents. And on one such occasion, Johnny, also well into his 80s, decided to go check out, it's Surfer Talk now, the big wave surfing at Dungeons. I don't know how many of you know Dungeons. It's formidable. On his return, he actually fell out of his boat. He spent about 30 minutes in freezing water of 12 degrees. And eventually, he couldn't get back on. And finally, he remembered the duck. And he took the duck to tie the oar handles together so he could swim around the boat and clamber back onto the bow. And he simply rowed back, almost hypothermic, back to the harbour. And the following week, he actually had a checkup with his cardiologist, a pacemaker check. And the cardiologist noticed like a spike in his heart rate. And he sort of asked Johnny, you know, like, what happened? Because it's quite significant. And Johnny just said, well, I fell off my boat, my single, sculling at Dungeons. So, ja, ik zal, ja. Shush na Annemarie. Okay. So, Johnny was not only a member of Hout Bay Yacht Club, but also a very active member of Hout Bay Yacht Club. He was keen to grow rowing in Hout Bay, and he didn't want to row alone in Hout Bay all the time. So we decided to buy a double together. And when I asked Johnny for boat name suggestions, he just immediately piped up, skrik vir niks. In English, it means fear nothing. And I just thought this summed up Johnny in 3 beautiful words, skrik vir niks. So I'm gaining momentum, Annemarie. It was an absolute privilege to row with Johnny in Hout Bay. He insisted when we rowed together to always stop at the leopard statue at the bottom of Chapman's Peak, and we had to stop and salute the leopard. He often took me around the bottom of Chappies and showed me all the hidden caves, and we'd count the number of caves. And one early morning Hout Bay row, and I'm not a morning person, as I got into the boat with Johnny, he was on bow as always, and I was in stroke. He suddenly said to me, Stell, you're being very sociable this morning. And I'm like I'm quite grumpy, actually. And then I realized I'm sitting the wrong way around on the boat, facing him. And Johnny that's all he said. In Hout Bay, Johnny also volunteered to coach the leopard skiff. It's a St. Ale skiff. So that's another way he contributed to rowing in Hout Bay. Okay. Okay, so good. Johnny will be remembered for me, not only for his skin, sure, I wanted that secret. He had the most beautiful skin. For his kindness, for his sincerity, his strength, his wisdom, and his gentle voice he carried with such authority. His ability to make everyone feel important, accepted, and never ever judged. Johnny, your absence will leave a void the size of the ocean. He will live in the wind, the ocean spray across the bow, the bond that holds his loved ones together, and for his lasting advice. Just don't stop. Thank you. So I'm introducing Annemarie, beloved friend of Johnny. Spent many a row together with Johnny. Shared many special moments with Johnny.
You can hold on to this. Can you hold on to it?
Put it in my pocket? Oh no, just
Do you
go.
have a pocket?
No.
I can just outside the chair.
Yes.
Okay, you can start speaking.
This is an incredible occasion to have the honor to speak also for my friends at Cape Coastal Rowing Club and so many of us who spent a lot of time with Johnny on the water. I have to thank Nick and Lindy for the invitation for me to say a few words about your dad. Penny, I would like you to know that your husband was mighty proud of you. He never, ever waited to say and praise your career, how hard you worked as a mum, the rowing mum you were, the lifts and the care. We heard so much about that, and I just want you to know that all of you, all your children, we were up to date with what you were up to. Johnny kept us up to date. He loved coming out of the shower looking absolutely spick and span, sometimes with a blazer if there was an event, a very smart collar. And he would tell fantastic stories, but the truth about all of you. Your achievements did go noted. And we kind of got to know you guys a little bit, Nina and your children, a bit more like that. It was absolutely incredible. So with rowing, we all know that timing is everything. And Johnny's timing was always impeccable. Always early, as Estelle said, at anything. When we had a tour, Johnny would be the first to put his hand up. He would be the first in his Mini Cooper to get there first. And we would all respect that. He showed respect for other rowers because he came from a fine boating career where it was very important to be on time and to row with proper timing. You can't get the swing if you don't understand timing. So the very best part of Johnny, I think, that we really enjoyed was his humor. He never gave up telling us funny things. And there's one thing that is really special at the moment, and I asked Lindy if I could say this. On the morning of Johnny's passing, I knew from the family that the doctor and they were expecting it to happen 2 days before, 2 days and 2 nights before, am I right? And Nick sent me the message first thing in the morning to tell me that Johnny has now peacefully departed this planet. And next thing I get a message from him saying, today is Mike and my birthdays. Rather auspicious. The next thing I get a message from Lindy saying, as always, my dad's timing was impeccable. Today is Mike and Nick's birthdays. So here we are today, knowing that you all are going to have incredible celebrations every year, even bigger than what you would have already. And that was Johnny's fine-tuned humor and his grace and style that he delivered quietly with confidence. He stood tall and he set the most incredible example. Friendships are forever. That's what Johnny said. And you know that you're a friend of Johnny's if he invites you on a double to Dungeons. That was incredible. The swell, I don't know the size of the swell there, but it was very groot. Very intimidating and an incredible inspiration to be with Johnny. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was a fantastic sailor. He understood the weather. If somebody had to make a weather call and you were with Johnny, you were in the right hands. So friendships, Johnny missed that very, very much during COVID. He missed our togetherness, going on boats. It was a difficult place for a lot of us because we are used to a lot of exercise. We're used to the endorphins. And Johnny in particular used to speak very highly of what endorphins do for you and how he kept himself happy by rowing regularly, beat his diabetic situation with diet and rowing. He knew that there was so much to it, and he shared it with us. So during COVID, our ex-Commodore at the time is not here today, Peter Kutzer, said to me, at the time I was doing the social media and the writing of the newsletters and everything, why don't we start a post every afternoon during COVID and you gather some information, particularly historic and classic from some of the fellow rowers, some photographs, and write it up, and at least we will have that. Every day by 4 o'clock, can you please make sure it's done? None of us knew how long COVID would last. But it took about, I think we managed about 35 or 40 days, and Johnny rose to that occasion. It was a challenge, which he loved. And I think for about 7 or 8 days, he kept me busy with amazing copy and photographs. It's still saved, and it's still all there, and it was absolutely amazing. So we learned about his rowing career since he was 11 years old. I'm sure Derek Reed will elaborate on that. The other thing about family comes first was that moving together was really important to Johnny. That comes from boating, holding your family together, and moving together. He really got that right. And he showed that in his passion for teaching. As he grew his own family, he extended himself into the Cape Coastal Rowing family. That was another family for him, but he almost wanted to hold it together like this. And it reflected in his coaching of our Law Hill Maritime Academy students who come to us from grade 10 to 11 and 12. In other words, those students would be already 4 years older than Johnny when he started rowing. So he really could appreciate that. He had a very soft spot for them. His compassion was incredible. He understood that sometimes if they were a little bit late for the coaching, they first had to wait for breakfast at the hostel, walk all the way down from the school, and then get here. Johnny was very, very happy to teach. He was passionate. He passed on his skills. And the one thing he always said to them is, never stop learning new things. Do what you love, and then do it well. He would say that quietly and confidently and look at them and make eye contact. And then when he took them out in the quad, sometimes he would be the cox calling the commands, and other times he would be in the bow coaching 2 and 3 in front of him. He did a brilliant job of that. And often we were on the water together on Saturday mornings or Friday afternoons, and I actually witnessed personally how, particularly the tricks, he would get them in that boat to go forward fast, to put the legs down, and to actually swing together. That was his dream. He wanted them to learn to row properly. And he used to say to them, you have no idea of your privilege here. Make the best of it. This can change your life forever, as we have seen over the years. Lastly, I would like to say that Johnny loved a challenge, as Estelle mentioned. In our club, he had a very soft spot for entrepreneurs, self-starters, and the self-employed. With encouragement and love, sometimes a little bit of a firm word, but always, always positive. He egged us all on and made sure that we followed our hearts and our heads, all nicely balanced, just like he was. So I'd like to leave you with that positive note of positivity, of passion, compassion, and love that only one will understand if you understand family love. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Cool. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, AM. Thank you so much, Estelle. I would now like to call on Derek Reed to have a few words on behalf of Wemapan, where Johnny started rowing, I think. Okay. And I'm gonna touch you a bit. Is that okay?
Yes, you can.
It's just for the.
Wow, there we go. Yes, I need my notes. Johnny rowed for Wemapan. It was wonderful. Wema was the most progressive and dynamic rowing club of the day. Definitive in blue and white stripes, okay, and spirit among its members. It was the first rowing club to build trailers, and Wemapan would travel South Africa to every province to row in the organized regattas in the 50s and the 60s. Wema was the powerhouse of rowing, taking over from the coastal centers where rowing actually started in South Africa. And Wemapan was a product of the gold mining industry and attracted young and dynamic individuals from all over the country and the world And Johnny arrived from Rhodes University, where he learnt his rowing and he applied it at Wemmer. Wemmer was invincible. Johnny rowed in the eights over those years, and that was the flagship of rowing. They would travel the country, and Wemmer Pan would produce the fastest eight. It would break up into fours and doubles, and they'd win as well. They swept everything away in front of them. But as is inevitable with rowers, they find someone they love and they leave the sport. And Johnny did just that. He met the love of his life, Penny, and he vanished from the rowing scene for a while to concentrate on family life and his business life. But you couldn't keep him away from rowing, and in the early 70s, Johnny returned with his progeny. He fed them with rowing, and there was young Nick. He was now rowing for St. Stidians, and what did they do? Yes, they produced one of the finest schoolboy eights, and they cleaned up in the South African Schools Championships as well. Well, Masters rowing only arrived in 1975, and it started all over again. Johnny was back, this time with Hip Brouwer and Margaret. We all remember Hip and Margaret, and then Colin, he's here with us today. And they formed a very good group rowing together. But inevitably, as happened with rowers, they enter retirement. And Johnny moved down to Hout Bay, and there was a dispersing of the people again. And then Margaret and Hip moved down. And Margaret had realized and found out that they were actually building seaboats in Johannesburg. There was no rowing in Hout Bay for Johnny because the water was too rough and no seaboats. And Margaret bought the very first sculling boat, and it was brought down to Cape Town. And Johnny had a good look at this. I had a good look at this. And the next thing, there was a double down, and Johnny bought the first Cape Town built sea scull. And that was the spark which actually set coastal rowing going. And you've heard about the wonderful attributes which Johnny had. He was an amazing person. He understood people. He understood rowing. And he was just an incredible contributor to that. So he actually understood humanity and how people can grow out of rowing and become better every day in every way. So Johnny, rest in peace. You have rowed a most wonderful journey. We love you. Yeah. Thank you, Penny.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you want this goodies back? Okay.
Okay, I'm going to touch you again. So you can hold on to that one, please.
There you go.
Sorry.
All the equipment.
Hold on, dear.
Thank you.
Okay, now you.
Now me.
Okay, want to do that? Is that okay?
Yeah, I'll
'Cause I
just
don't
hold
wanna-
it. I don't think that's going to work. But I do need this open. Okay, there we go. All right, for those of you who don't row, sorry, not sorry, I'm going to tell a rowing story. And that is that as a rower, there's a million things to think about as you're in the boat. You know, you must come fast up the slide, but not faster than your stroke. Your body must go forward, but don't slump. The blades must go in clean, but not too deep. And then you must push like hell and do it all over again. And there's all of these things racing around your head. And then suddenly, one day, alchemy happens, and you get that perfect stroke. And it's just incredible. George Pocock talks about it as finding the divine, your soul of souls, the you of you. And Dad, you found the you of you. You found the divine, and I will find the divine every time I row. I'm going to make it through a poem too. Can you believe it? Crossing the bar. Hang on. I need it bigger because I can't see. Maybe I'll take these off now. It's okay. When you're crying and you've got glasses. Sunset and evening star, and one clear call for me, and may there be no moaning of the bar when I put out to sea. Just turn it. Come on, there we go. But such a tide as moving seems asleep, too full for sound and foam, when that which drew from out the boundless deep turns again home. Twilight and evening bell, and after that the dark, and may there be no sadness of farewell when I embark. For though from our home of time and place the flood may bear me far, I hope to see my pilot face to face when I have crossed the bar.
So it's going to be like
Sam, yeah.
4 minutes until the sound comes back.
Okay, cool. So, Sam, do you want to come now?
Are you happy?
I'm from Australia and we're going home.
Hello.
My colleagues are going to find this
Is she
really funny.
Okay, can I just put this on?
Okay.
Yeah, you hold on to this one and then we'll just. Sorry. Just put it. Yeah.
And will you tell me when the mic comes back on, or?
The mic is on.
Oh,
Actually. Yeah, so
okay,
you can
cool.
use the mic, yeah.
Oh, amazing. We've got batteries here. Hi everyone, my name is Sam and I have the honour of sharing some words on behalf of Grandad's grandkids today. Ernest Hemingway is quoted as saying, "Every man has two deaths, when he's buried in the ground and the last time someone says his name." In conversation, authors Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie and Elizabeth Day speculate that perhaps it's not the last utterance of our names that brings an end to this second life, but rather the moment those who loved and cared for us stop telling our stories. This gives me great comfort because, Grandad, I have absolute confidence that your stories will live on in your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, and all those whose lives you've touched, giving you a rich and wonderful second life that rivals only the first in its tenderness, its integrity, and its kindness. I'm going to read 13 stories or memories from each of the grandkids, which we'd like to share with you all today. Matt remembers Grandad as a true legend across generations. His life embodied integrity, passion, and unwavering commitment in every endeavour, whether it was work, marriage, friendship, parenting, mentorship, cooking, or exercise. Those who had crossed his path couldn't help but be inspired by the remarkable impact he had on others. While we deeply feel his absence, we cherish the fortune of having been blessed by his presence in this world. Grandad, your legacy is enduring and you will always be loved. Sarah thinks of the words kindness and humility when she thinks of Grandad, because that is how he approached his relationships with people. However, she writes, he also approached life with a fire and a fun spirit, as mopeds, yachts, and messy kitchens flash through my mind. So many of my feel-good childhood memories come from their home in Joburg and of course Hout Bay, as well as various holidays over the years. A wicked sense of humour, insanely good in the kitchen, bit of a wild side. I'm thinking gas explosions and scooter accidents, and a fierce love and admiration for his family all describe Grandad. Family roots are the foundation for one's sense of worth and base personality, and I strongly feel that there is a root from Grandad in every single one of us that will bind us for life. Thank you, Grandad, for showing us how to live life passionately. Dan remembers our grandfather as a man of few words who managed to inspire us, and many more nonetheless. Dan writes, I have fond memories of him from my childhood. He taught me many skills such as sailing and rowing, but in doing so taught me so much more about life. I am without a doubt a better person today due to his influence. I miss him terribly, but have been eternally touched by his spirit. I hope to pass on what he taught me about my life to my children and hopefully one day to my grandchildren. For me, when I think of Grandad, I hear the roar of the ocean, I smell the freshly baked loaf of bread, a Nivea moisturiser, the secret to the good skin, and see images of his Vespa speeding on by. I'll think of Grandad every time I drink a good coffee, when I ply my friends and family with delicious food and drinks, and when I make a big mess in the kitchen, which is more often than I like to admit. I'm forever grateful for the example Grandad led of a quiet kind of strength, kindness in every interaction he had, and his gentle presence. Benj shares that Grandad left behind a legacy of a gentle kind of love that I was lucky enough to experience through my dad. As I continue to grow in age, I hope I can be half the man Grandad was. Gentleness within gentlemen is ironically rare. We should all try be a bit more like Grandad. Shannon writes, there are many things I will always remember about Grandad, but among them was one trip we took to visit Grandma and Grandad, fondly known as the trip when Grandad exploded everything. He started off with a visit to a motorcycle He started off the visit with a motorcycle accident. Thank goodness he was okay, but he went to hospital and was given crutches. We were relieved to have him home and would all have been happy to let him rest on the couch and recover, but no. While still on crutches, he decided to make us some hoagies. He was trying to get the braai to work when he discovered a small gas leak. My sisters and I heard only a loud bang, followed by shouts downstairs, and emerged from our bath to find an even more hairless Grandad than usual, right down to singed eyebrows. Grandad returned from his second visit to the hospital, not deterred by his culinary endeavours, and determined to create a bright blue cotton candy flavoured ice cream for his grandkids. The machine malfunctioned and exploded everywhere in a brilliant, effervescent blue cloud, blanketing every nook and cranny of their Joburg kitchen. My sisters and I ran around licking up every last bit. This memory will never fail to make me smile, but it also reminds me of Grandad's tendency to lose himself completely in the pursuit of his latest fascination. To lead with curiosity and to revel in the process of perfecting a skill or creating a new and beautiful thing. Whether it was a soup recipe to feed the masses during the pandemic or a simple bowl of fruit laid on the table before anyone else is awake. Often, these pursuits benefited his grandkids, his kids, and the many who surrounded him. For that, we will always be grateful. Nicola writes, to have known Grandad was to have known gentleness and profound love. The way with which he moved through the world is a sense of inspiration for so many of us who know and love him. Grandad taught me the power of a quiet kind of strength, and he had the ability to make those in his presence feel important and loved. There are far too many beautiful, silly and joyful memories of Grandad to choose just one, which I suppose is the best kind of problem to have. But my favourite stories he told were often about his love for Grandma, and especially how he courted her with a toilet bowl full of flowers. We are all so lucky to have such an incredible example of love to look up to. While the loss and grief we are all feeling is undeniable, Grandad lives on through all of us and through the wisdom he imparted and will continue to impart. When Nick thinks of Grandad, he writes, I see his warm smile light up from across the dinner table. He always paid close attention to each and every one of us. Grandad was a gentle leader. He taught with kindness, patience, integrity, and heartfelt passion. Forever, we will take with us his words of encouragement. It gives me great comfort to know that he's always with us. His gentle presence is felt in the oceans, in the food we share, and the kind words we speak. Josh's favourite memories of Grandad will always be at Grandparents' Day at school. He writes, Grandad's gentle kindness and warmth was so visible, and everyone from the lunch ladies to the rector loved him. On those weekends, he was a fierce supporter of my hockey matches and wise source of advice to help me navigate teenage life. Above all, Grandad imparted on me the importance of being a gentleman and how to navigate the world with grace. Lauren writes, the sorrow I feel for the loss of my grandfather is slow and steady, as he was in life. I missed the way he listened and the softness as he spoke, infrequently yet profoundly. I missed the smell of fresh bread as I woke to find that he had been in the kitchen since 5 a.m. I missed the spray of sea mist as he sailed around Hout Bay. In all that I miss, I am reminded of the love I hold for him. And so now, because I had the privilege of looking up to him, learning from him, and loving him, I find joy in the quietness, the kitchen, and the sea. I smile for the sound of Dolly Parton, the taste of fruit salad, and the warmth of a fire on a cold night. Thank you, Grandad, for making the small moments of my life more meaningful. Because I knew you, I'm a stronger advocate for living my life as fully as I can, as fully as you lived yours. Lulu writes, Grandad, you're a great man with a great spirit and heart. You left a massive positive impression on all of our lives, and you will truly be missed. To Jade, Grandad was her ultimate hero. She writes, his calm demeanour and joy for life always inspired me and made my day. I was and forever will be inspired by Grandad's out-of-the-box creative thinking, ability to never give up, and marvellous food creations. I love how safe Grandad made me feel, and I will treasure his passions for the ocean and learning for the rest of my life. Last grandchild, I promise. To Arun, Grandad was one of the most inspirational people he ever knew. Arun writes, I remember hearing stories a few years ago that Grandad had told me about his previous careers and things he managed to accomplish during his lifetime. I remember being in absolute awe of what I was hearing and feeling incredibly inspired by the accomplished old man that stood in front of me. Grandad always tried to make spending time with me special in whatever way it could be. I remember cooking prawns with him last year and feeling rather bored during the process. He later told me that he deeply enjoyed just being in my company and that he was grateful that he could spend time with me. When I thought about it like that, I realized that I actually did enjoy that time we spent together a lot more than I realized. And I asked myself, why is that? I mean, all we were doing was cooking prawns. But when I thought about it, I started to remember all the little things that were happening. The knowledge I had learned while cooking, the short but deeply rooted and informed opinions he gave, the small jokes he made that were actually genuinely funny. All of these little things that had made a big impact on the short time we had spent together then. I'm honestly amazed at how magical Grandad's presence was. Even doing things I deeply hate, I'm sure I would probably enjoy it a lot more if I had his company. Grandad, to me, was always the wise man that seemed to know everything about everything, but inside he was just a small, joyous kid at heart that seemed to always find light in dark situations. Even nearing his passing, Grandad still managed to shed words of wisdom to me. Grandad will continue to inspire me through my life, and I'm determined to keep all of what he has given to me through his lifetime. In closing, on behalf of us grandchildren and our burgeoning offspring, we encourage you to join us. Keep saying his name, keep telling his stories. For there is no better way to honour the man who gently and generously showed us how to write our own. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to do that and then. I'd like to introduce Kathy, who's going to do both.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks so much. I hope you can all hear. What is that
It's
supposed to
this
do?
little yeah, so
Okay,
when I like to
great.
stand,
I'll
yeah.
stand here. Okay, cool. As with most times like this, there's always an enormous amount of gratitude that we all feel, and we just wanted to say some thanks to people. I want to thank the False Bay Yacht Club for this beautiful venue, and for Zandi, who's helped us so much setting up everything today, to Claire for her beautiful catering, which we'll enjoy later, and to Aaron, who's doing our link where people can watch what's happening. Sasha, we want to thank enormously for the beautiful Dolphin Diary tribute that she wrote, beautiful words which we'll treasure forever about Dad. The rowing club, there's just no words. As you said in your speeches, you were his family. You very much were. There were so many of you who put yourselves out so much for him and were just the kindest of friends. You always made him feel comfortable, not compromised in any way for being older or uncomfortable in the slightest way. You just took him in, and you all know who you are. And yeah, with this, you were incredible to him. To John Parker and Shannon Odell, who were his doctors, who looked after him incredibly well, just helped him through the process of all of this, and took great care of him. To our Sarah Valley team, to Catherine and our beautiful Kyria today, for the love and care you've given Mum. I know it was a great reassurance to Dad, and thank you for being here as well today with Mum. Our angels who came into our life at the end of August, Aviwe, Zianda, Sissy Piwe, and Bussy. I found a quote that says, "I love it when you meet an angel on earth and they have no idea that's what they are. A human angel, an angel covered in skin. They are the best kind of humans to know. As your eyes open or something, as you evolve, as your eyes open as you evolve, and your soul is receptive, you will encounter and recognize these angels on earth more and more." These ladies went above and beyond the call of duty for Dad. They were kind, they were understanding, they gave everything of themselves to him, and they gave to our family as well. They became part of the family. Neens, you also are one of those angels. It's to Nick and Nina, but I'm going to focus on Nina right now. Nina's been unbelievable. She's had Granddad in her home, and she's taken him in and loved him as her own dad. And I just don't know what to say, Nina. You've always been cheerful, and you've had all of us coming and going and pitching and doing all kinds of crazy things around your house. And you're just so superb, and we value you so enormously. Thank you, Nins, for that, and for giving Dad his final resting place. Thank you very much for that. Our friends and family, we've had so much support from our extended family, some who've come from far, guys here I know from Natal. There's family that have travelled. There's friends that have come and supported us in all along this process, and supporting us with the loss and recognising what Dad meant to all of us. The Weimar contingent, those who may have come down, all of those. I want to thank my own personal family, my husband, my children, and my beautiful 3 grandsons who gave a lot of unsolicited solace when I most needed it. And I was able to be with them when Dad passed. So that was fantastic. And I know it's not easy putting up with me when I'm dealing with all this, but yeah, I really appreciate my family for that so much. My siblings, I literally have no words to express my gratitude for you, for supporting how we've supported each other. Dad always used to say that what he valued enormously was family unity, and that we'd all be unified as a family. He need never have worried, because he bound us together in so much love, and Mum too, that there was never going to be any way we were not going to be unified. And you were there right to the very end with him, and even this morning on the row. And I'm really, really grateful. There were times I couldn't be here, and I'm so grateful to you all. Thank you for that. Mom, thank you for loving Dad with your whole heart, your whole life. Thank you, Mum. You really did, and we're really grateful, and he loved you so much.
And then Dad, thank you. You always had time for people. And you gave us time by living as long as you did. We're grateful for that. We would have wanted longer, but you gave us that time. And most particularly your loved ones, you gave this time over these last few months where you could say things to us, and you took your time, and as we said, the timing was impeccable. And you took your time, but you did it beautifully. And thank you for being our dad.
I want to now introduce Nick, who's also going to do a tribute for his dad. This guy, you can just click it.
Greetings. My work here is done. Everybody said everything. Thank you. I'm one of 4 of the luckiest people here to be able to call John my dad. You're all extremely lucky to have known him. I want to speak to my dad, but I also want to speak to you about my dad, because I think it's important to pause and take in who was this man, Johnny Bothma. I'm not going to speak about the many achievements my dad accomplished, like inventing over 500 unique formulations for specialty health foods, developing the process for extracting fuel out of sunflower seeds, or the multiple international awards he won for his work. I'm not going to speak about his 75 years of rowing and the many wins and awards he achieved in those years. What I would like to speak about is who this man was, not so much about what he did. What is it about this man that when he died, we were flooded with an outpouring of love? On my brother and my birthday, which was the day he passed, we received multiple messages of love and support from you, his friends, family, and community. It was overwhelming, and I felt a lot of love. And at the same time, pride and a sense of being connected to an amazing network who at the center was my dad. Words dropped in messages like gentleman, strong, kind, generous, humble, brilliant, patient, integrity, grit, humor, and many more. I'm going to talk about a few of these words. My dad was so different to many other men in so many ways. He developed a way of living that became a huge inspiration to me and so many others. He had perfected the art of living and found a flow state in which he lived and which flowed around him in the way he navigated life. He had found the elusive balance within himself. He was an incredible father. He was there for me at every turn, but never tried to dictate or dominate with his direction. He let me learn whilst always being a gentle yet solid support in the background. I remember my first boat, a little Optimist dinghy, which he bought for me. We drove out to meet with the owner. We rigged the boat, and my dad said, "Hop in." He then pushed me off the dock and said, "You know how to sail." And I drifted off, looking back at him, smiling at me, and I was struck by his words, "You know how to sail." And I thought to myself, do I? Sure, I'd been sailing with him on keel boats many times, but I'd never actually commanded my own vessel and the helm. And I said to myself, sure, okay, I do know how to sail. Let me do this. It was a huge step for my confidence, and I had to keep telling myself, I can do this. Lo and behold, I made it back to the dock after sailing up and down for a bit and never questioned my sailing abilities since. I remember that voice comforting me again, saying, "You know how to sail," while sailing, watching a huge storm approach as I sailed single-handed across the Pacific, shitting myself only to be guided by these words and that knowledge. My dad was spontaneous and always filled with a sense of fun. I remember being on holiday in East London, where he was born. He announced he was going for a swim and wandered off and jumped into the East London harbour and swam across the harbour mouth, only to be met by an irate policeman on the other side, who shrugged and said, "What the hell are you doing? You're not allowed to swim in the harbour," and sent him back. He returned tired and out of breath and with a big grin. It was then I realized my dad was a little different. I went on to spend so many years sailing, rowing, doing so many amazing things with my dad. He was forever showing us life in all its diversity. He took us to shows, concerts, theatre, game parks, and so many interesting places and events. One of the things I loved about being with him was the ease with which he embraced silence. I remember one Sunday sailing with him where we drove to the Vaal Dam, sailed, and returned, and we hardly spoke a word the whole day. But there was never any discomfort with that, and we both felt completely at ease, hanging together for hours without the need for small talk or chatter, just being together, listening to music, and processing thoughts and feelings. Being quiet was one of the many precious qualities of my dad. When he spoke, it wasn't overly serious or dramatic. It was calm and clear, and you listened. Lao Tzu in the Taoist book, the Tao Te Ching, wrote, "Of a good leader who speaks little, in the end they will say, 'We did it ourselves.'" My dad was very Taoist in his ways and was an incredible leader. He led rowing crews, business teams, companies, and a family with the special strength he had. This quiet, soft, yet strong wisdom and direction, guiding in a way you didn't even know he had done so. Yet in the end, whatever the team he was leading always felt they had done their very best and achieved to the maximum of their potential. I don't say this lightly, but my dad, for me, sits in the room with three other great leaders I have been privileged to meet through my work: Nelson Mandela, Archbishop Tutu, and the Dalai Lama. I had the same feeling with those men that I had with my father, a calm, strong, centered presence that oozed peace and grace. Had he chosen to be a religious or political leader, he would have been somewhere in their company. One of the things that defined this leadership also was his ability to problem solve. My dad was a scientist with a brilliant mind and approached problems in a very unemotional way. He employed logic and creativity to think things through carefully and come up with the various solutions and alternatives to whatever the obstacle in front of him presented. He was never stuck. Perhaps one of the greatest assets was his diminishing hearing, which allowed him to tune into what mattered and tune out to what didn't. He did that with sound, but also more deeply with his attention. He generally focused on what was positive and useful, and not on what was negative or over-emotive. Loyalty. My dad was the most loyal husband, father, friend, and member of the various communities he was part of. He was married to my mom for 62 years, an incredible marriage to an incredible woman. As anyone who is married will testify, it's not a straight road, and every marriage comes with its challenges. He stuck by my mom through thick and thin and never wavered in his love and commitment to her. Perhaps his loss of hearing helped at times with selective approach to hearing. In other words, hearing what he needed and not hearing what he did not need to hear. Strength. My dad was so strong in the truest sense of the word. He never needed to show that strength. He just embodied it. He was a very tough old bugger who had endured a lot. As a family member pointed out to us, coming in the Morton family was never going to be easy, and he did so with ease and grace, and won the hearts of the family members he became part of. Reading Titch's message here, I think, sums it up pretty well. He was a gentle, strong gentleman who was thrown into the Morton family, which was never easy for any man, and never wavered in his integrity and ways. All I remember is that gentle voice that had such authority, being so interested in the person he was communicating with. You felt his intense focus and the conversation that he had with you. His strength carried him through many a long row and challenging periods in his life, and he had a determination and grit that we need to celebrate. In a world beset with crisis and chaos, and as some put it, toxic masculinity, here was a strength we can hold up as a true example of what it means to be a man. It's important to take men like my dad and hold them in your minds and heart as a true example of what it means to be a good person. Dad, to me, represented everything that is right with the world and how a person should be. generous. My dad was so giving of himself to all his family and friends. He coached so many youths from the Law Hill Academy, going right back to the teaching multiple crews over his 75 years rowing, mentoring students in food science, teaching young sailors, helping so many other students in life. He always put you first and had a wonderful way of explaining things. He was so patient with kids. So we've talked a bit about who this man was. I want to talk a little about how this man lived. This is important for all of us, but especially the youth. Through routine, he developed habits. Through good habits, he achieved growth and maintained a sense of well-being. These healthy habits he developed started early in the morning. He was an early riser and started his day making his bed, washing and shaving and eating a healthy fruit salad, and then a row or some form of exercise. From there, the day flowed into whatever he was doing, and there was always something he was doing. My dad never retired. His work was his passion, his interest, and his interest led him to keep developing and learning, keep creating and innovating. He was always moving forward and seldom standing still. In fact, in the end, standing still hurt him. Walking was okay. In his work, he was not driven by material gain, but by creating and problem solving. Finance was a byproduct of his excellence in his work, never a goal in itself. So to the youth, take that example to heart. Develop healthy routines, keep active and keep doing what you love. Built into his routine always was time for rowing. This served a dual purpose, exercise and community. Through rowing, he developed a wonderful community of friends, so well represented here. Community, being with family and friends, was one of my dad's favorite things. That sense of togetherness fueled him. He loved all of you. His family, friends, by embracing the various communities he was part of, he was surrounded by good people and drew much joy and strength in togetherness. Humor. So many funny moments with my dad. He was such a joy to be around. There are so many stories. I'm not sure why, but this one kept popping into my head, so I'm going to share it. We were on a marina somewhere, and the boat next to us had some trouble starting its engine. An old man was tinkering with it, and we were about to leave. My dad noticed and offered assistance. Next thing I knew, we had the engine in pieces, and we fiddled and tinkered for what seemed hours. Eventually, he put the whole thing back together after isolating the problem and going through his methodical problem-solving method once again. It was a small boat like ours, and my dad had to climb out over the engine, stand on the cockpit above it to start. My job was to flick the switch as he spun the engine, engaging the flywheel. My dad wound a rope around several times and steadies himself on deck, legs wide apart, and the rope wound with a big wooden block as the handle. Myself and the old man on the inside of the boat on either side of the engine. My dad bent his knees, straightened his back, and with an almighty pull, he ripped the cord up, spinning the engine. At this point, I flicked the switch and the engine burst into life. But as the engine started and began chugging, the rope that my dad had used to start the engine had not fully released, and it began to wind itself up again at high speed, pulling the big wooden block he was holding out of his hands, and it came crashing down into the engine, smashing it into pieces, and the engine splattered and stopped in a big cloud of smoke, with the whole thing now in pieces. Once the smoke settled, and I could see the old man, and I made eye contact with my dad, he looked at me and said, "Oh well, if you can't fix it, fuck it." We were all rolling around the cockpit for ages. So the only solace I have found with death is to know people we have lost would have wanted us to live how they would have wanted us to. So to all of us, but especially the youth, who will carry humanity forward, let him be a guiding light like a lighthouse to ships in the night. This is the kind of person you want to grow up to be. Let Johnny's example guide and inspire you to be the best version of yourself you can be. Never give up. Be strong. Be gentle. Be kind. Allow your habits to define a life that in the end you will say, "I have lived well. I lived like Johnny Bothma." Dad lived like a Zen master and was fully living his ikigai, which is a Japanese concept of living in the intersection of what you're good at, what you love, and what the world needs. My father found that elusive balance within. He had found inner peace and a way of living in balance with himself and the world around. Take this example and know it's possible. The best example of how to live a very full life. Eat healthy, keep active, doing what you love, keep engaged with your community, use your brain, stay humble, have fun, and smile. Dad, you're a legend, and the greatest father a boy could ever have wished for. The first memory I have of my dad is the rhythm and tempo of his walk, carrying me to bed from the couch whilst I pretended to sleep. The last memory of my dad is feeling the rhythm of his breath as he took some of the last breaths of his incredible life. The same rhythm by which he rode and flowed through life. Captain, my captain, I salute you. Thank you. Your life was your gift to all of us. Thank you, Dad. I'm not finished yet. My daughter's not embarrassed of me yet. Said, Dad, you speak for so long. Please don't speak for so long. Make it short. Sorry. Just want to echo a few thanks. First and foremost to my wife, Nina. I will never forget what you did for my dad. Your love and support and care for him were next level. Seeing you every day, coming to his room with a cheerful, hi, Granddad, and your beautiful, joyous presence was a huge, bright light in his life. Thank you. To Jade and Arun, thank you for opening your home and hearts to Granddad. I know it wasn't easy, hasn't been easy having our home become a hospital for months. Also for the last few years where I've been preoccupied and spent way less time with you than I would have liked. Thank you for being the most amazing kids. I am so very proud of you. To Aviwe, Zianda, Piwe, and Busi, thank you from the bottom of my heart for being the angels that you are and for being so kind and supportive to my dad. To Shannon and John, thank you so much for being there and holding my dad's hand so well through the last few strokes of the race. To Mike and Sue, such special friends. To Leslie for shrinking my mind to a suitable size. Thank you, my siblings, for your incredible support and love. Thank you, CCRC, for your community and family. John became Johnny at CCRC, and you'll forever be close in our hearts and for the love and support you showed him and the special family he embraced. Thank you, my friends, who have helped me so much through this. Thank you to all of you being part of my dad's life and for being here.
Oops. Oh, sorry. Okay, here we go. Hold on to this one. And then this guy can go in there. And then I shall give you that one here.
Dad, I had 1,000,001 words, but they've all been said. So I now remember clearly that the greatest gift and biggest challenge you presented me with was silence, yours and my own, and how to be comfortable with it. I don't think it was always easy for him,
and definitely wasn't always easy for me. But I think I learned most of the most valuable lessons from him in that silence. So with the words, I can only compromise some of that truth. But I do feel compelled to say a few, to welcome and honor our ancestors, that you are now in the process of becoming. None of us, this family, would exist or be here without you. And it is simply fitting and appropriate that a boatman whose ancestors were boat people would congregate in a boat place to do boat things. Because after all, there's simply nothing, I think someone said, more enjoyable than mucking about in boats. But Dad really lived and loved that, and it's in his ancestry, it's in ours, it's who we are. So to welcome those ancestors on all sides of our family who are present and very much with us today. So I am not going to say any more words except in poetry to share with you just two. One is I wrote some time ago, but there was something about it that spoke to Dad, and it was, he asked me please to make it possible that he could have a hard copy of it. So I want to read that today because I know it meant something to him, and it also meant something profound and deep to me and him. It was a moment in our relating and relationship that this mystery of the silence and what we communicated was shared in a beautiful way. There's something you've said that captures something I feel that I like and want to say again. Oh, wow, okay, that was true. I never had to doubt the understanding and the sharedness of our struggle with words and appreciation of them. So this one just goes, I just love you. And I'm saying this to you, Dad, today. Nothing will ever be enough for answer the questions of why and what for and how so. As broken as all the broken bodies, so too the broken minds are not you nor I. And still we ask why, and then just cry because nothing will fix us, nothing can, and nothing does. And everything is love. And love is everything and nothing, everywhere and nowhere. So with nothing left to do, I just love you, and love you, and love you, and love, love without end, or words, or the songs of birds, and wails of mourners, mourning the losses of minds and bodies that come and go, whilst all along, love is all that's left, all there ever was, and all we are. And when there's this knowing, there's always calm, and no harm, and an open door to happiness, and nothing more or less than that which we all seek and of which we relentlessly speak, till we seek no more and know it's never really not here, and always already inside that wide open door. Perhaps after that, wanting will truly be no more. And until then, I just want you to know this: I love you. Dad, your life of gentleness and grace, your soft, unwrinkled face and your quiet, attentive ear brought so many curious souls near to listen and to hear what it was that you had to share. Without airs and graces, you were able to meet us in all our own comfortable and uncomfortable places, as you elicited feelings of connection and awe that made us want to be with you and know you more. In a world so conflicted and brimming with war, you navigated tough spaces like a ninja of the night, facing your demons whilst quietly refusing to fight the fights that separated and decimated and tore at the very core of what you stood for. So now, in the wake of your bodily existence, we've gathered in love with little resistance to celebrate your life and brilliant existence, as well as to celebrate a deep inner persistence, the quiet battle won, leaving a legacy that has only just begun. Your essential humanity and redefined masculinity shines like a bright light and continues to guide me through many a dark night. Like the stars in the universe, and like each and every one of us, you are 1 in 8 billion, and 8 billion in 1. Thank you for all these lessons, and thank you for sharing so much truth, love, and fun.
Okay. Thank you very much. That was absolutely beautiful. Nick, Mike, that was really, really stunning. Thank you. Thank you. I would like us to just take a moment of silence or prayer, just to honor Johnny and what he did best. Just a minute. Okay. Wow. Okay. Cool. So this brings us to the end of our wonderful, wonderful ceremony and send-off to our beloved Johnny. And in closing, I would like to say to Johnny, Mr. Love, Mr. Roa, Mr. Greatest Dad of all time, Mr. Greatest Granddad of all time, Mr. Family Man, Mr. Problem Solver, Mr. Explosives. Thank you for your legacy of light, love, and creativity. We will never forget. Rest in eternal peace. Dearest Johnny, you are a true legend. To all of us gathered here today, remember this, you know how to sail. That's powerful. Thank you so much for being with the family today to bid farewell to our beloved Johnny. Please travel back home safely. But for now, there's a wonderful spread of eats, and also the bar is open. Johnny's paying. Thank you very much, guys. Beautiful. Oh, thank you. So stunning. Brilliant. Beautiful. Thanks.